How's it going, gents? Here we are today in my garage. I've taken everything out of the garage except for the WR250R, currently on dirt bike wheels. I'm going to show you how I change it to Supermoto wheels. This is a video I did back in like 2014 when I had no idea what I'm doing. I still have no idea what I'm doing, but I have more tools now. And I think I have the perfect way of changing the wheels without doing as little damage as possible to sprockets and chain and stuff. So I've got Maccas, that's the most important thing. Can't play music because it's copyrighted, but let's get going. So I'll do the first wheel first. So I was almost about to put the front wheel up and then I completely remembered, no, there's something you should do first. Always crack the nuts first, the big ones, because otherwise it'll be very difficult to do it when it's floating in the air. So get the nut loose first. Gah, gah. All right, once that's kind of hand loose, cool. That makes it way easier. Then get this bad boy up. Now she's up in the air. Now I can take this off, and then next up we'll be doing these, because these pinch onto the axle, so you got to take these off so you can get the axle out. Now these shouldn't be too tight. There is actually a science to how tight all the bolts around your front fork should be. Kind of motocross guys and stuff will probably torque these to an exact amount. I don't, because I don't really care. I'm not freaking racing or winning competitions. I'm just trying to freaking keep my freaking wheel on. Now, previously in my last video I made of this, I was using a torque wrench to do all the hammering of things. Don't do that. That was a stupid Tom thing to do. Now I actually have a rubber mallet. Keeps the threads a bit better. See, it's coming out on the other side. Now this should be nice and greasy. I'm basically making this video so you don't make the mistakes all I did. I used to never grease this axle until once I think I did a river crossing and that rusted and it was fixed into where the axle goes, and it was, oh my God, it was hard to get out. I actually had to invest in a freaking big hammer to get it out. I had to hit the axle as hard as I could with that hammer to get it out, but that should be that now. So front wheel comes off. Now with the WR, we got these spacers here. So I'll have to transfer the spacers over to the Supermoto wheels. But luckily with the WR, the width of my front wheel is thin enough so I can slide it in there without taking the brake caliper off. On my 690, I used to have to take the brake caliper off, which is a bit more of an annoyance. But with the WR, because it's still quite thin, the front wheel of the Supermoto wheel, it's pretty freaking easy. Now I'll chuck the Supermoto wheel in there. We'll start tightening her up. So I've got the disc lined up, spacers are in. Now I'm ready to slide the old axle in. Now if the axle is dirty or isn't greased anymore, re-grease it, because you really don't want it to rust and get fixed in there, but mine's still pretty good, so slider in time. Now when you've got the axle all the way in, you can't tighten this big one on just yet because you've got to do these little pinch bolts first, so always just get that on going a little bit. Then back to this guy. Now, yeah, these do have a torque spec, and if you really care about the handling of your front fork, you could actually do these properly. I don't care, so I'm just gonna do them one ugga-dugga and it should be all right. Now, I change wheels pretty often, so I tried to get as efficient as possible of doing it. So what I used to do is I used to get both wheels changed over and I'd just have these pretty loose, and I'd kind of, the last thing I'd do is get the torque wrench out and do both of them at the same time because I've already got the torque wrench out. Then what I found is I kept forgetting to do the front. So I would go riding and this would be hand tied on. So now I'm just like, make sure you get it tightened because it's very important to tighten this bolt. You don't want this bolt to come out. Even though this will keep it on, you don't want to lose this bolt. So I always make sure, just tighten this first, then go to the back wheel. Make sure the front wheel is 100% done, then move to the back, and then you won't forget. So then yes, use a torque wrench for the main bolts, because you'll be surprised how tight they are. They're quite tight. The rear is incredibly tight. I've done this so many times, I know the torque specs off by heart. 63 Newton meters on the front, 125 on the rear. So 125 is a lot. It's still set on 125. I've done the back previously. So yeah, it's a lot to tighten them up. So make sure you use a torque wrench or else you won't do it tight enough. There you go. Properly torqued up. All right, that's front wheel done. Front wheel is the easy one. Unfortunately, the rear wheel is quite a bit harder. There's a bit more steps. So let's move this forward a bit and get onto the rear. We'll get onto that just after we get our sponsor McDonald's. No, I'm not sponsored by McDonald's. I wish I was sponsored by McDonald's. If I was sponsored by McDonald's, oh my God, this would be the best. But I'm not. So I've just taken it off the stand. I'm about to kick the stand a bit further back so it now lifts the back wheel. But if you've been listening, what do we have to do first? We have to crack this big ass nut. Now this will be done up to 125. So 125 Newton meters is quite a lot. So you kind of need to use your breaker bar up. Or your boot or something. Jack her up in kind of the rear as far back as I can. And that will that gets the rear up. Now time to get that axle out. So same deal with the front axle, same deal with the back. Just this one will have a washer on it though. A little washer, and then you've got your chain adjusty blocks. But that should be ready to tap out. The old axle out. Yeah. Chain can just get the chain off to the side. She should just come out. You've got spacers in here as well on each side on a WR. Now chuck that to the side. Now what I found, what I used to do previously is on the rear wheel of my Supermoto wheel, I had a sprocket. That's why there's a sprocket up here. So I used to have two different sprockets. On the 690 I ran them different tooth sizes, but on the WR I just run 1450 gearing on both. It's all right for road and for dirt. But what I found was having two different sprockets and constantly changing between two different sprockets was absolutely destroying my chain. I went through two chains in maybe 5,000 Ks or something when a chain should be lasting you like 15,000 Ks. So, and I kind of found out it was because I kept changing sprockets. Basically, sprockets and chains, they bed into themselves. So if you're constantly changing them, it's constantly having to bed into a new sprocket and wearing it out. That's what I think. That's what other people have said. I don't know, you might disagree, but what I found is if I actually just use one sprocket and I take off these bolts and take this sprocket and chuck it on that wheel, my chain is surviving a lot longer. So that's what I do now. It's a little bit more effort because I've got to take off the bloody 6 bolts and change sprocket. So it takes a little bit longer, but I find the chain is better off in doing that. Now when you got the wheel off on a WR250, make sure you check the chain slider underneath here because they always get wear, especially if it's lowered. This WR is lowered because my wife used to ride it. So it has a Yamaha link, lowering link in it. Because my wife used to ride it when I had the 690, she would ride this. I actually still like it lowered, even though I ride it most of the time now. I actually really like it lowered, so I've kept it in there, but that lowering link will cause the bottom of your swing arm to get chain wear. So make sure you check it. I'm on my second plastic slider and I've already eaten away some of my swing arms, so I gotta check it quite constantly. So I had it pretty quick. I had it down to maybe 6-7 minutes to change these wheels over back in the day when I had 2 sprockets on it. Now this bit here, taking off these bolts, you know, probably doubles the amount of time, which is a bit annoying because yeah, I liked having it super quick to be able to change them. But this is probably maybe 15 minutes now when I actually change a sprocket, just because this is a bit annoying. I also don't use power tools. I used to use power tools and I would strip these almost every time with a rattle gun. So it takes way more time when you strip them. It's just easier to use hand tools and get it done right. Can't be trusted with power tools. I'm not old enough. Sprocket is now on. So I'm going to chuck the spacers in the Supermoto wheels. Now this is probably the hardest freaking bit, and that's getting the rear wheel on. There's a little bit of a dilly-dally to it. Basically you got to kind of lift the wheel, you got to slide the brake disc into the brake caliper, and also you've got to flip the chain over the sprocket. So you want to try and make sure that's over this side. So, and then get the axle through, and then the spacers will always fall out, and then you want to kill yourself. So this is always the most annoying bit. You kind of need like 4 hands to do it. So I'm not going to even try and do it holding a camera. It's even more annoying when you got like the stock fender on it and it's hitting you in the face. Luckily I've got a fender eliminator, but that's all kind of lined up. So I've got the spacer, the brake caliper thing. The disc is in the brake pads. I'm kind of running low on brake pads. I've got to get rear brake pads soon. Spacer's in there. It's kind of lined up with the hole almost. Chains on the right side, so that's going to be over that. So now, time to get axle in there. Again, you should make sure that this is clean and oiled. It's relatively clean and it's oiled, so it's not going to rust. Let me slide that in there. All right, she's tapped on. So get this little guy in here. A little adjusty friend. Put the washer on and just tighten that up a smidgen. Now, because I ran the same gearing, I shouldn't actually have to adjust my chain at all. I always kind of check it. Because I run the same gearing on both sides, it should be fine. That was the annoying thing about having KTM 690. I had two different sprockets for different for road and dirt, and it was annoying because I'd have to adjust the chain every time. But yeah, now with the WR, as it runs the same gearing, I don't have to. And now you kind of just honk that on, torque up these big bad boys, because you'd be surprised how tight they need to be per factory. And now that's the rear done. So we're all done. WR is now on Supermoto wheels. So always just, you'll have no brake pressure at the start, so takes a little bit. Get brake pressure back on front and rear. There you go. Just because I kind of spread the calipers open. These tires are Pirelli Scorpion Trail tires. I've had them for ages. Basically, I went to America in 2013 and I was on a Ducati Hyperstrada that had these tires. And I thought they were great. They were really good off-road, really good on-road, and you could do a little bit of off-roading with them. They are still very road-focused, but I mean, if I had to go on a fire trail or a dirt road, they're absolutely fine. The thing is though, is because they're designed for the multi-strada, these come factory on the multi-strada. Because the multi-strada is such a big heavy bike, on this little bike, these tires have not worn out at all. Like, these tires are from 2014 and they are still perfect. So they'll last me a long time. But yeah, I'm gonna just lube up the chain and then she's ready to Supermoto around. So that's how I changed my dirt wheels to Supermoto wheels. Biggest thing, take the sprocket off the wheel and put it on the other wheel. That's what I'd say. Keeps the chain healthy. Other than that, piece of cake, man. And now you've got 2 bikes in one.